Okay, today we're going to talk about a topic that I feel I need to talk about. We're going to talk about knives, the myth of the knife, the practicality of the knife, legal reasons of the knife, and things of that nature. And I have a few examples here that I'm going to just mention briefly. This is most about laws involving defense and things of that nature, and practicality laws. Kind of like the videos I did a couple weeks ago, where I talked about practicality and legality and shit like that. It does not jam, it does not run out of ammunition. That is the creed of the knife fanatic. Knives are good for many reasons. Number one, unlike guns, they're not always a weapon. In fact, they're almost never a weapon. 99% of the time the knife is a tool. Knives are smaller than guns, they're cheaper than guns. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars in ammunition on knives. You don't need to apply for a license to own a knife. You don't need to apply for a carry license. You can't bring it to the courthouse or the airport, but you can put it in your pocket and bring it to your office at work. You can bring it to the construction site. You can keep it in your pocket in case you need to cut boxes or cords or a little sandwich throughout the day. So because of this, people put knives in their pocket. In New York State, everyone over 18 can legally have a 4-inch knife. I've heard 6 inches, but I've also heard 4. So to be on the safe side, if you live in New York, don't go anything above 4 inches and carry it with you. There are some restrictions on knives. For example, you can't carry a Bowie knife to the office. You can probably carry it camping or hunting, but you can't carry it to the office. But for practical reasons, you carry a several-inch knife in your pocket, and in case you need to cut something, not someone, something, you use it. But people are talking about knives for defense and knives. If I had my knife, I could stab that guy. And I heard, there's been a couple of myths I like to dispel. If you watch my last video, I dispelled the myth that every gun owner can just see 3 robbers, pull out their gun and kill all 3 robbers in 5 seconds without a scratch on them. There are many myths surrounding the knife as well, if not more so. And we're going to get into that too. We really need to address this issue. A few months ago, a young man from the Bronx, he emailed me. He didn't message or comment, he emailed me. No, he wants to remain anonymous, so we're going to respect his confidentiality. This gentleman was telling me that he was robbed by 5 or 6 men in the Bronx. And he said, if I had my knife, could I have stabbed them? And I told them yes. The reason why I told him yes is because if one guy is hitting you with his hands, he probably can't kill you, probably can't. But if 5 or 6 big guys have you surrounded and they're demanding money from you, by law, you may legally, in almost every state, you may legally use deadly force because 5 or 6 guys outnumbering you, even if they have their bare hands, they can still beat you to death, strangle you, throw you off a cliff. Okay? So 5 or 6 big guys probably could kill you. So legally, if you honestly believe that they have the ability to kill you, and if you believe there is no escape, remember, you must escape if possible in 90% of the states. Some states you don't have to escape, you can chase anybody anywhere, but most states, like 90+%, if you can legally retreat, you must. But in theory, if you're surrounded, you can't get away, you need to defend yourself, you think you're going to die, in theory, you can use a knife. Theory. Let's talk about practicality-wise. And I told this to this young man. If you're surrounded by 6 guys, and they pull out a knife on you and they want money, if you pull out that knife and start stabbing them and going kung fu on them and shit like that, you better know how to use it. Because when they take it away, they'll show you how to use it. If you're out somewhere and 5 or 6 big guys surround you and say, give me the fucking money, you have a knife in your pocket. My advice to you, reach into your pocket, pull out your money, drop the money on the ground, turn around and run in the other direction as fast as you possibly can. That's my advice to you. Now, I talked about deadly force, and the deadly force in my video that nobody pays attention to, that I talked about, deadly force, non-deadly force, most of those things I talked about apply in 90+% of the states. In every state I've ever heard of, using a knife and using a gun is deadly force. There's no legal difference between stabbing someone and shooting someone. You may only legally stab or shoot someone if you were in an absolute 100% life-threatening altercation. Period. Period. Life-threatening. Not the guy says about my mother, not the guy giving me problems. Life-threatening. The guy's gonna kill you, you can stab him. If he's not gonna kill you, you can't stab him. That's it. So you don't say, well, I didn't want to pull out my gun and shoot him, so instead I pulled out my knife and stabbed him. You did the same thing. You did deadly force. You can, if you have a guy sticking his hand in your pocket and you pull out your knife and stab his hand, you got a problem. If you catch a guy trying to jumpstart your car and you walk up to him, pull out your knife, slit his throat, you got a problem. If you see a guy shoplifting a candy bar and you chase him down the street and you stab him in the back, you got a problem. You got a problem. First of all, if you stab a guy that's shoplifting a candy bar, in addition to you being charged with attempted murder, you probably got a serious psychological problem on top of that. And you probably need some help. But a lot of people say, if I was in this deadly situation, I could have used my knife. How about this? If you have a gun and a knife on your body, and a guy is 10 feet away, threatening your very life, and you have absolutely no alternative but to defend yourself, pull out your gun, not your knife. The reason because if you pull out the gun, he's almost certainly going to run away. If you pull out the knife, he might run away, or he might call your bluff. It's a lot easier to take a knife away than a gun away. This fucking clock. It's a nice clock though, but it makes a lot of noise. So, keep that in mind. Also, the gun has a farther reach than the knife. The knife can only reach out as far as you can. The gun can reach farther. So, if it's a life or death situation, no questions asked, you're better off using the gun, because God forbid the attacker makes you, the gun has a better chance than the knife does. There's the thing about, I can throw my knife. Here's the deal. 90+% of knives cannot be thrown. In order for you to throw a knife, you have to have a specially made throwing knife. And throwing knives is a lot harder than it looks. I would love to take knife sets and learn how to throw them. I live in an apartment, it's not practical. But it's easier to shoot a gun than throw a knife. The average person can't throw a knife. And remember, if you pull out a gun and shoot a suspect that's trying to attack you, and you miss, can the suspect pick up the bullet and throw it back at you? No. If you pick up a knife, whether it's a regular knife or a specially made throwing knife, and you throw it at the suspect, and you miss, can he pick it up and throw it back at you? Yes, he can. Remember this in a knife altercation. When the knife becomes theirs, they use it. If it's a life-threatening situation, you pull that knife out, and they get it away from you, it becomes their knife. And there's an easier way to take a knife away than a gun. Because the gun can shoot. The knife, all the guy's got to do is work his fingers around you, work his hand the right way. Or grab your hand and kick you in the balls. There are 6 factors that deal with the knife fight. These are things that give you an advantage. Number 1 is your reach. Now you've seen boxing matches. The reach is between your elbow and your fist. In a knife fight or a blade, any kind of edge weapon fight, sword fight, the reach is between your elbow and the point of the knife. Whoever has the larger reach has an advantage. Age. If one guy's 20, one guy's 25, it doesn't matter. But if one guy's 25 and one guy's 63, young guy has the advantage. If one guy is 6'3", this is size. If one guy is 6'3", 250 pounds, the other guy's 5'4", 430 pounds, big guy has the advantage. If one guy is perfectly healthy and the other guy has a heart condition, healthy guy has the advantage. The weapon itself, this knife actually is a piece of shit. It's a Maxim, I think it's a bootleg, because see that? I damaged that Literally, I wanted to test how sharp the knife was. I took a little piece of paper and I went like that to test it. Not only did it not break the paper, it almost broke the knife. So if you have a guy with a knife that's a piece of shit, and you have another guy with a knife that's finely well honed, better knife has the advantage. Also, fighting skills have the advantage. We're running out of time now. I'm going to click off and click back on.